Hello, my name is Jackson, and in this video I will be analyzing the most recent Planet of the Apes trilogy from a psychoanalytical perspective. According to Professor Sweeten, Associate Professor of English at Motlow State Community College, psychoanalytic theory focuses on applying the principles of psychoanalysis to the study of literature, literary texts, and authors and literary characters. I will most predominantly be using the techniques of archetypal criticism by deriving Carl Jung's four main archetypes of the subconscious from the characters in the trilogy. These archetypes can be represented by individual characters or entire groups. The four main archetypes proposed by Carl Jung in his book Four Archetypes are as follows: the persona, the shadow, the anima, and the self. I will elaborate more on these archetypes later on, but before we apply these archetypes, let me catch you up on the primary plot and characters of the film. Rise of the Planet of the Apes. The three movies work together to set up a modern world where evolved apes are the most dominant force on the planet. They are led by an evolved chimpanzee named Caesar. Caesar is the first of these primates to evolve. He's extremely intelligent and communicates through sign language until he later develops the ability to speak. His evolution was the product of a virus derived from a drug known as ALZ-112, which was passed to him through his mother, a direct recipient of the drug during animal trials. He was raised like a son by the creator of the drug, Will Rodman. A stronger form of the drug, ALZ-113, was meant to cure Alzheimer's, but a brief incident involving a chimpanzee named Koba caused a gas variant of the drug to be inhaled by one of the scientists who contracted a deadly, highly contagious virus. Caesar uses this same gas to awaken several other apes and leads them out of the city of San Francisco into the redwood forests surrounding the area. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. 10 years later, we find the apes have adapted perfectly to the redwood forest by building a fortress from the trees, hunting the local wildlife, and prioritizing each other as a family would. The apes educate their youth, protect their territory, and abide by a set of laws. At this point, the human race has been all but eradicated by the ALZ-113 virus. A very small colony of humanity has survived in San Francisco, and they need access to a dam that is located in the apes' territory. While Caesar is somewhat relieved to see that they have survived, many of the other apes are anxious about the military capabilities of the small colony, especially Koba. The apes make a show of force at the human colony, which causes a panic that their leader Dreyfus has to resolve. Dreyfus sends his right-hand man Malcolm, who already has experience with the apes, to persuade Caesar to let the colony use the dam. In the meanwhile, Dreyfus assembles the militia as an insurance policy. Caesar agrees to let Malcolm and his team repair the dam, so long as no guns are present. In the midst of this fragile agreement, Koba, the general of Caesar's army, leads a scouting mission behind Caesar's back and discovers that the humans are preparing for war. He returns to warn Caesar, who is unfazed by the revelation. Caesar, correctly, understands that the humans will agree to peace if the dam is repaired, but Koba disagrees. In spite of Caesar being right, Koba's bloodthirst leads him to kill Caesar and frame the humans back in San Francisco. Koba becomes the new leader of the apes, and he uses his newfound authority to battle and enslave the humans at the colony. Malcolm and his team escape the massacre and find Caesar, who is barely breathing. While they nurse Caesar back to health, they recruit all the apes who remained loyal to Caesar, including his son, Blue Eyes. Caesar with his followers freed the caged humans, and meet Koba with his army at the top of an unfinished tower. All the other apes watch on as Koba and Caesar fight for dominance. Dreyfus and a few others planted several explosives at the foundation of the tower and detonated them. As the tower collapsed, the fight above continued until Koba fell to his death through the wreckage. After the dust had settled, Malcolm tells Caesar that the humans managed to contact a large military colony for reinforcements. War for the Planet of the Apes. 5 years later, Caesar and his tribe are still on the run from the military colony. They have been moving camp around the redwood forest they once ruled. The man leading the military colony is known as the Colonel. The ape tribe receives good news when Blue Eyes returns with tidings of a safe place for them to live. Caesar gives orders for the apes to prepare for the long journey. That same night, the Colonel and a military squadron sneak into the ape encampment and kill Caesar's wife and son. In the morning, Caesar sends the tribe off to this newfound promised land and stays behind to hunt the Colonel. With him remains three others, Maurice, Rocket, and Luca. They track the military colony, which is making a push for the California border quarantine facility, also known as the Border. Along the way, they find that the military colony has been executing members of their own troop. A new strain of the ALZ-113 virus has been spreading among humans, which causes the host to lose language function and act primal. Caesar and his squadron catch up to the colony at the border and discover that the entire ape tribe has been captured and enslaved. They are being forced to fortify the base for an incoming attack. Caesar is apprehended by the soldiers after attempting to sneak into the camp and is taken to see the Colonel. The Colonel explains that his military colony has split from a much larger one known as the Northern Military. The Colonel's approach to handling the new ALZ-113 virus involves the execution of its contractor, which is antithetical to the Northern military's approach. This approach would involve quarantining the victim and searching for a cure. This division of ideas has made the two militaries hostile towards each other, and they have agreed to meet in battle at the border. Caesar is made to work with the other apes during this time as his comrades on the outside craft an escape plan. When the Northern military arrives to battle, the apes hatch their escape plan and flee in the midst of the conflict. Both militaries are wiped out by an avalanche, and the apes make their journey to their new home. Upon arriving at the blissful Promised Land, Caesar dies from a wound he received while helping his tribe escape during the battle at the border. Let's begin breaking down these archetypes and applying them to the characters in the film. In his book, Four Archetypes, Carl Jung lists and describes four dominant archetypes: the persona, the shadow, the anima and animus, and the self. These archetypes can be portrayed by the people in our life, characters in mythology, or, in this case, the characters of a movie. Each archetype attempts to categorize how and why certain people are motivated into easily digestible characterizations. According to Carl Jung, the persona is an individual's system of or adaptation to, or the manner he assumes in dealing with the world. He goes further to say the persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself as well as others think one is. I believe this archetype best suits Caesar's general Koba. At the beginning of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, we see Koba save Caesar's life during a hunting trip. Throughout the movie, we see Koba care for Blue Eyes, Caesar's son. He mentors him, telling him that his scars make him strong. He feigns concern for the tribe when he raises concern about the humans, when in reality he is only worried about exacting vengeance. Years of being subjugated to experiments have corroded him, burned his spirit, and scarred his skin, yet he pretends not to harbor hate or resentment towards the humans for their continued survival. Remember, Koba was the one who contaminated the first human in the lab. This makes Koba the source of human suffering in the Planet of the Apes series. We see all his anger come to a head when he charges the colony headquarters with complete disregard for his tribe's lives. He even maintains disregard for his own life while he seeks to kill as many humans as he can. We later see him kill Ash, a close friend of Blue Eyes, for refusing to shoot a human. Not to mention, Koba tried to kill Caesar. Near the end of their battle in the tower, Koba leverages Caesar's conscience, saying,
Ape, not kill. Ape.
It is here that we realize what Koba was pretending to be, an ape. Up until this point in the series, humans had been the only ones capable of inflicting so much suffering and damage. Koba was, in reality, more human than ape, and Caesar solidifies this fact when he retorts,
You are not ape.
Shadow. Carl Jung defines the shadow as a personal gaffe, slip, faux pas, etc., which is then chalked up as a defect of the conscious personality. I believe in these movies, humanity is symbolic of the shadow. One may contend with this idea because Jung seems to be referring to an individual in this definition, but Carl Jung broadens the shadow archetype by stating, as soon as people get together in masses and submerge the individual, the shadow is mobilized and, as history shows, may even be personified and incarnated. This excerpt from the four archetypes reinforces the idea that humans may be the shadow throughout the Planet of the Apes trilogy. As stated earlier, humans are the ones who have caused the most agony. You can point to Koba as a close second, but remember, humans created Koba and the ALZ-113 virus. The shadow is also redefined by Jung as a trickster, the one who creates problems for himself to fall on. Humanity created ALZ-112 to cure Alzheimer's. The ultimate result of this was Caesar and his tribe of super-intelligent apes who rampaged through San Francisco in their escape. Christopher Durbin, host of the YouTube channel Durbania, very cleverly discusses the theme in the Planet of the Apes trilogy of reaping what one sows. The idea that humanity's shadow is a defect rather than a predominant effect of their existence is naive, but then there are individuals like Malcolm, Will Rodman, and Ellie who prove the exception with their kindness and hopefulness. Altogether, humanity proves to be its own extinctor. The anima and animus. Jung describes the anima archetype as the subconscious feminine traits in men and the animus as the subconscious masculine traits in women. This concept can be a little harder to explain than the previous archetypes. One subconsciously uses their anima or animus to balance a decision or their thoughts, and it can be very expedient to them. However, if one allows themselves to be entirely consumed by their anima or animus, it results in the worst traits of one leveraging the strength of the others. For example, If a man was to be consumed by his anima, he may become extremely vain or depressed. In the Planet of the Apes trilogy, the anima or animus is not represented by a member of the opposite gender, but rather by a member of the opposite clan, Homo sapien or primate. This is how I have chosen to derive this archetype from the trilogy. It's not a coincidence that we see so much overlap between the evolved apes and humans. Having been raised by humans, Caesar is the most human-like of the newly evolved species. His traditional upbringing has translated to him having strong family values, which have kept the tribe together. However, when his human side becomes more dominant after the death of his wife and son, he becomes vengeful, and this is directly signified by Caesar's projections of Koba. Humans, though extremely logical and intelligent, can be seen abandoning all regard for others when their primate side dominates. Dreyfus makes reference to this human tendency often when he warns against returning to the way things were. I think this is one of the most clever archetypes used in the Planet of the Apes series. The Self. Jung defines the self as the hero threatened already at birth by envious collective forces, the jewel that is coveted by all and arouses strife, and finally, the god who is dismembered by the old evil power of darkness. Caesar is the jewel of the apes. Caesar is the hero of the apes. Caesar is the god of the apes. From birth, Caesar was already incredibly gifted due to his inheritance of intelligence. He was sheltered from the world, a world that would crucify him. He rises out of his class in the animal kingdom to become the leader of the next class of intelligent beings. He is the only ape with the ability to speak. This makes him the literal voice of his tribe. When he is enslaved with his tribe at the border, he uses his voice to negotiate with the colonel for food and water rations so his tribe can eat. Caesar is the orator, the warrior, and the king. He endowed these primates with the gift of consciousness and mentored them in all things kind and prudent. Inevitably, he is dismembered by the power of darkness. After leading his people to the promised land, he dies on a hill surrounded by his creations. Allow me to conclude with a quote. The creator of the world did not fashion these things directly from himself, but copied them from archetypes outside himself. Thank you for your attention. I hope you guys have a good day.